Hey guys, Analog Man back for another deck profile, actually on an improved version of my previous list of security control. Now that BT6 is finally out here in the States, I've actually changed it up into a BeelStar control deck. I've been actually talking to a lot of other security players in my area, and it's kind of weird. Um, Running BeelStar without the starter deck stuff is very weird, but you have to capitalize on seven options and some weird kind of healing options. A lot of the builds actually that I've been encountering actually don't really run that much healing, which is really weird in my opinion because you want that kind of healing to kind of stall it out until you get Beelstar out, basically. Um, Personally, like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I personally enjoy healing up first before I start swinging because that way my opponent swings into more of my blowout options essentially. Because this deck actually has a few more different option cards this time aside from like the standard Musketeer stuff. I actually took out the red Musketeer card because it honestly it's a huge brick in this deck. Fly Bullet is already not that great of a card in this deck, and adding those in actually adds to essentially a super dead hand, which in security control you never ever want to have because you want every card to be an impact and hit as much as possible to clear their board so that they don't hit your security as much. I mean, as I said, it's usually you will have a big security, but you just want it to stay that way and not have it go down to five or less because then that's when you're essentially in the danger zone, part of the pun. Um, but yeah, let's get into the deck profile so that you can see what I mean by how I run this. So we're running four BBmon. Before I had the other ones. The was it the Upam? Not Upamon, but it was the Pikmons or the other ones. They're okay, but I honestly really like BBmon because that extra memory gain when you're at three security is actually really nice because then that lets you kind of pop off and maybe put on another board wipe or something and give them a little bit less. So I like having this at four. And then we're still running an Upamon, just one, because, I mean, you want the draw, but with this deck, you're already drawing a bit anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. We're not running the security Digimon anymore because they're not BT6 legal, and I'm trying to make this deck legal for that, so you kind of have to rely on either this or or evolving on top of this with a Salamon, so we stick with that. So for the first uh, for rookies, we have three Salamons. Before I was kind of going back and forth between four and three, but three seems to be just enough that it doesn't get stuck in security or bricks your hand, and kind of like as a last option, just in case for healing. So it's not too bad. Three is solid enough that you will not have any issues. So I just went with it like this. Then for our last rookie, we have one Lucamon. I just put this back in recently. I've been seeing a lot of builds running like four or three of these, but I honestly like it at one because you don't want this to brick your hand either. Like that's the one thing I don't like about some of the security builds that I've been trying out. They're all very bricky because they're focusing on more aggression, and aggression means that a lot of the stuff in your security might end up being Digimon, and you don't want that. You want it always to be just a bunch of options. So running a lower cost, or a lower amount of Digimon is always a good thing in security control. That's all for the rookies. I actually reduced down the amount of Magna Engermon. I took out one because mainly I mean, it really sucks when this thing gets stuck in security, so I've been trying to mitigate it, and this seems to work pretty well like this, and it's a good evolution for the next card that's coming up, which is our level sixes, three Sakuyamons. I have been messing around with this card for at least two formats, trying to figure out how to put this into the deck, and I finally figured out a way to do it. And that's running three of these. Before, this card didn't really matter as much, but now with the fact that bond decks are essentially tier one, especially Gobble you want this in your deck because Gobblebond has to expend memory to get rid of this. But the thing is that if they push out Goblimon to do it first, that Goblimon will automatically gain a -3 security, so you will essentially be safe from it popping any of your security. You'll just lose your board, but most of the time with Bond decks, you want to just keep your board clean so they can't get any effects off, essentially. But having this out at the time when they summon out Goblimon is always a good thing. This actually in testing has clutched a few games against Jesmon, so I actually do like how this works. Also, the fact that with this on top of Magna Anja, it will gain a boost from all the security. Plus, it gets a minus of 3,000 to all your opponent's security Digimon. So you already kind of have an advantage when you're swinging anyway. So really good card. I would recommend honestly running this at 4, but I just can't find the room, so I have at 3 at the moment. And then the star of the deck, of course, for BeelStarmons. This card was super hard to pull. Well, compared to how the other cards were, I only got 3 of these. I pulled myself, one from each box, and then the last one I had to trade. This card is super broken as hell, especially with all the certain options that you're running in this deck. The fact that you can also evolve a Zwart on top of her is really broken, and the fact that her ability where she reduces her cost for every Musketeer and 7 cost option, it doesn't apply to just 3 Musketeer options. It applies to any 7 costs. So you basically can just run a deck of just like 7 cost options and reduce her down as much as possible, and then just play her for free almost. Like the lowest I've gotten her to is 4. So in security control, especially with all the tamers that you run in this deck, it's super free essentially when you get her out. But yeah, must have, like, gotta run at 4, nothing less. Then for other level 6s, of course, we run the standard 4 Managemon. I've been kind of changing the ratios. I dropped this down to 2, did not like it, dropped it, put it back up to 3. It still wasn't enough, and I just said, screw it, and just went all the way and just put in 4 again, because you want to see her, at least one of her, or best possible scenario, 2 of her in your hand, so that you're prepared for if you're playing against a Bond deck. This is crucial now against Bond because you need to heal after they swing. So maximum can't have any less. You have to do this. And then, of course, also running Force Ward. I've had issues where I've bricked into him, like all of them at once, but it's honestly not that bad, especially now with Beelstar as the main, card essentially. So pretty sweet card. Awesome when hidden security, because then you just get a free boss monster out and you just start swinging for game. That's actually all the monsters we run in this deck. We run a really low amount this time compared to before, because with all the removal cards, you don't really need to like stall your opponent out as hard anymore. So it's honestly it's a good ratio for now. Starting with the options, we run 4 reinforcing memory boost, because card is broken, lets you basically set up your security and add removal to your hand. So got to keep this as maximum. It's essentially another healing card, so you got to have it. Um, a lot of people have been cutting this out, but I still like 4 Holy Waves in the deck, because Holy Wave is just super overpowered. It's always really great for people to hit into it in security, because it's just, I mean, this has actually won me games because my opponent just didn't have that last hit, and then next turn I just wiped their board and they could not recover, and they had to pass, and then I would just heal up afterwards and just go back to 5 security. So it was just, honestly, I love this card a lot. That's why I still have the alt arts for it. I reduced down Wyvern's Breath to 3 because of the other option that I run in this deck that reduces DP. So 3 is pretty solid, and you'll see it often enough. So yeah, very solid card. I'm still running 3 onslaughts because sometimes you just need to pop their biggest guys, and sometimes they'll put duplicates. Like I had a match against Green where they had like 3 Lilamons and they hit into this and it just popped their whole field. So always nice to have this out. And then this is where all the 7 cost options come in. So let's actually separate them real quick. So these are all the normal options. This is where this is all the Beelstar stuff essentially at this point. We run 7 heavens because it's a 7 cost, and it minuses 10,000, so that kills almost most level 5s and lower. So it's always good to have. 4 Gewalt Swarmers because you just want to pop their board. This does hit you as well, especially at Magna Angemon and Salamon, but that's fine. You usually don't really have them out in the field when you play this down, so it's not that big of a detriment. And then for the last like 7 cost options, we have 2 fly bullets because this insecurity is really cool because then it just pops level 6 for you or lower. So always nice to have removal. That's basically all the option cards we run for the deck. That's about let's see. It's like what was it? 10, 5, 10, 15, 20. We run 24 options in this deck. This is actually less than what I used to run in the older builds for BT5, but it's pretty nice. For tamers, the final 4 cards actually are tamers. We run 3 Izzy and Joes, and 1 normal Izzy because we still need that memory setter. I've seen people running 4 copies of this, but I've tested it and I really don't like it because your opponent can play around this and just keep 1 guy on field, and then you'll never get memory off of them. So it's good having 1 Izzy so that way it sets the memory, and it kind of gives them it basically forces them to be like, okay, he's going to go to 3, so I might as well play a second guy, and then they play right into this because they always forget about it. So far in testing, this deck is kind of weird because I'm still kind of getting used to Beelstar basically being the main girl of the deck. I've taken out Machine Dramon, which kind of sucks, but it's like to be more efficient, you have to run it kind of like you have to be running more 7 cost options. You can actually, I've seen people actually run Terra Clusters and Cocytus Breaths by running like different colored tamers. But for me, I just want to just heal and pop their board as much as possible to out resource them. And so far, this is actually in testing. It's done pretty well. I'll know if this deck is more effective tomorrow because I'm actually heading to a locals um, that's actually doing BT6 finally. So I'll let you guys actually know. I'm actually planning to do a vlog of it of the experience and just to see if this deck can really honestly perform in a post like BT6 release because everybody's going to be playing Gobblebond or Free Musketeers and I want to be able to basically have a good matchup with them. Um, my previous build could like take on 3 Musketeers like toe to toe, but here it's like I'm not 100% sure. So honestly, I'm just hoping this deck runs a little bit better. But this is what I want honestly as a build for security control. And anybody who's watching, just honestly, as I said before with the previous video, take it as a template because net decking is never good. I've been guilty of that myself, and it's never a great idea to net deck because then you don't know how the build works. You don't essentially understand how it works properly. Building your own version and building essentially a jank version that only you understand actually gives you an advantage, honestly, I feel, because nobody usually expects certain techs. Like for me, that's why I always played Machine Dramon or I played Sakuyamon. Like nobody ever knew how to beat it. But anyway, watch out for those vlogs, and I'll see you guys next time on the next deck profile.